Hey everybody, it's Gina here from Gina Makes It. Today I am on the Graphic Fairies YouTube channel creating a fun little tag for Tag Team Friday. Today's video uses a bunch of free Wildflower clip art that is on the non-members portion of the Graphics Fairies website. I love wildflowers. I love all of the different colors, and I particularly love these little vintage images that you can find right on the site. So I first started off by printing them on some photo matte paper. I used the photo matte paper because I wanted a pretty rich, deep colored image, and that's the best way that I can achieve it using my printer. And you can see the colors are very bright and they pop, they come right off the page. I also used that paper because I knew I was probably going to be pairing these little fussy cut images with some neutrals. So I have these tiny little envelopes that I got from Joann Fabrics, and they came with little note cards. And so I thought that the envelope could be used as the base for my tag. So I am creating a little cluster of wildflowers to the left of each envelope. And I've been thinking about how to kind of cluster them, and I decided to use I had a scrap piece of wrapping paper left over from Christmas. It's just craft colored wrapping paper, and I cut a little rectangle out and I created a little pocket you can see right here, and that is what my wildflower clip art is going to sit in. It's going to be a little package inside of there. I always think of the book Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf for some reason when I think of clustered, brightly colored flowers wrapped in brown paper. I don't know what it is, and it's very summery. It's a very summer image, and we are definitely heading into summer right now. So you can see I'm just kind of distressing the top of my little package that I made. I'm adding a little bit of distressed ink, and once I get it sort of where I want it to be, I'm going to arrange them inside, very carefully trying to make sure that none of the parts of the flower that I want to see are covered up by any of the other parts. And by doing so, sometimes I had to clip off a few extra leaves just to get it to fit right exactly the way that I wanted it to fit. And you can see I'm just trying to arrange it in a way that is going to help it sit properly inside of the little envelope. And I'm using 3 on purpose because I always feel that if you use something in odd numbers, it feels a little bit more balanced. And you can see I'm also variegating the colors as much as I possibly can. And so I have a yellow, a sort of blue, purple, and a white for the top one. And then for the bottom one, I have a white, a pink, and again, like a blue purple. And there are 3 different types of flowers, and I just like the variety that it gives. So I kind of flew around here for a little bit, trying to get it to sit flat and get it where I want. And then once I finish arranging them, I take it to my sewing machine and I do a little bit of fussy sewing around the perimeter of my little brown pocket. Speaking of fussy, I failed to mention the way that I got these actual images off of the paper was by fussy cutting them out. And so instead of cutting them right along the edge, I find that to be extremely difficult when I'm cutting an image out. I always leave a little area of white, like a white margin, around the perimeter of the image, and not only is it way more forgiving and easier to cut out, but it also looks a lot nicer. And then you don't have to worry about cutting out the middle part that happens to be white, the background part. I am not very good with like an X-Acto knife. I see other people on Instagram and in YouTube videos, and they are very adept utilizing those knives, and they get very nice cuts. But whenever I try to do it, it is jagged and it is not straight, and I end up cutting the whole image in half. So I always try and fussy cut leaving a margin, because in that way I don't have to fussy cut the middle part using any sort of knife tool or anything. So now I'm back, and you can see that I did a little bit of sewing with some light colored thread around the 2 sides and the bottom of the package, and now I'm just gluing my flowers in place. I thought that by sewing it might create a little bit of stability, but it wasn't quite enough. So I do add a little dollop of glue to each inside package. So I'm also kind of at the same time rolling back the top of my little pocket because I do want it to look a little bit distressed. And I again am rearranging some of the flowers just so they sit a little nicer before I add that final little dollop of glue. Now that I have them all situated and they're glued in place, I do get my little vintage photo distress ink, and I kind of ink up a little pad I have here, and I go around the edges, and I particularly pay attention to that little fold on top. And I'm doing this because I want to create a little sense of depth when it sits on top of the envelope. So now I'm going to top my tag, as it were, and I'm going to use a piece of vintage lace, and I'm just going to fold it in half. I'm going to do a little bit of sewing to close the bottom like I did here, and then I'm going to add a button as just a little point of interest and a little bit of texture. I'm gluing down my little packages on the left hand side, and you can see how wonderfully vibrant they are against the neutral of the envelope, the brown of the little package it's sitting in, and then also the texture of the sewn vintage lace that serves as the tag topper. But again, I do add a neutral vintage button to the middle of each little fabric swab at the top as sort of a finishing touch. So I mentioned earlier that I was going to add a journaling spot in each of these envelopes, and I'm just using the note card that came with these envelopes, and I'm cutting it in half so it's one that you can slide in and out, and it's not going to provide as much bulk as if I left it folded. So it's just a single piece, and you can see it also gives stability to the tag. And once you do some writing on there, some of that writing will peek through. You could type on there, you could write on there. There's all sorts of uses for this. This could be used as a tag on a gift, as a piece of happy mail, as a place setting, or even as a spot inside of your journal, which is probably how I'm going to use it because I do like to add these types of things to my journals. So there are those vintage buttons just added to the sort of middle or offset middle of that little tag topper. And now the final touch, or the second to last final touch, is just adding a bow to the middle top of each little package with some leftover twine that I have. It's a very, very thin twine that I purchased from Hobby Lobby a while ago, and this is in a cream color, and this is the last of it. You can see that empty roll up on to the right hand side, so I have got to order some more because I use this a lot, especially in binding, when I'm binding the signatures inside of my journal. I like the color and I like the thickness, and it's pretty sturdy too. So I'm just going to glue down this little bow right in the middle using some fabric tack glue, and then the final touch that I decided to add, which I might take off if I use it for something different, I'm not exactly sure, is I go through some stickers that you can see I have to the right hand side of my desk, and I add a little sentiment to the bottom of each. I liked these stickers. These are Tim Holtz stickers because they weren't a stark white. A lot of stickers you get are just have a white background, but these have a nice and neutral background. And so I decided to add a little sticker to the bottom one that says friendship, and another sticker to the bottom of the other one that says my heart. As always, thank you so much for watching and following along with all of my fun projects, both here on the Graphics Fairies YouTube channel and my own. I'll see you next time.